It's a Christmas Eve edition of the Husker247 Daily. I'm Michael Bruntz, Brian Christopherson over there, trying to give you something to listen to as you're white knuckling through the parking lots, fighting for those last minute gifts that are sure to please everybody on your list. Brian, I gotta be honest. I don't even start getting nervous till after lunchtime. Like I'm gonna get some lunch here in a little bit. Then I'm gonna hit the stores. Like I'm not panicked.
You don't have to be panicked unless it's Christmas morning and you're in like a CVS, and then you're in a pickle. And I have been there once, but I don't plan on being there this time. But so yeah, this is where you just got to be clutch. This is like you train all year for this. It's like the last 5 minutes of a game. It's like you need that drive like Nebraska had against Maryland.
There's also some tension too, I think, when your kids are opening a gift and like the wife has bought it and you have no idea what's in that box. Like you're just whatever comes out of there, you're like, it's a surprise to me too.
Do you take a lot of credit for it then if it's a hit, or
no?
That's a bad move.
Yeah, that's a bad move. Bad move. Anyways, so we're a couple days away from jetting off to Vegas after the holiday here for the bowl game. I've got two things for you. We were batting around topics. What can we talk about? I think a very obvious answer is the running backs. So you cannot say running backs.
Okay.
And there's gonna be an accompanying content piece with this at Husker 24/7, maybe tomorrow. Who give me two players that you are most interested in seeing in this bowl game, and it cannot be a running back.
Okay, not a running back. And of course, who I say goes with the I guess the disclaimer that you never know. Like you got to make
sure
you
might hit the portal tomorrow. You never know.
Yeah, you got to make sure everybody's on the team. Like we'll get out there and make sure these guys are there. But and I'm not trying to say that in an ominous way, but that's just the way of the world now with college football. But Dawson Merritt would be an example of someone I would be really interested to see in this bowl game. He was injured throughout November. That kind of slowed his role. I think both you and I were of the same mind that, he was rehabbing during the spring, and actually I think was kind of on the fast track with what he did with his body and getting out there about 100 some snaps, considering he was a first year guy who didn't have that lead into the season. And so if he could get himself healthy and get some snaps out there, he'd be a guy I'd be really interested in seeing. Am I allowed to say TJ Lateef, or is that's cheating? You're giving me that.
You can say it. I won't be impressed.
Yeah.
You want me to give you time to think?
Yeah. You give me one, because I'll think of someone that's not named TJ Lateef. That would not be impressive. You're right.
I want to see what Riley Van Poppel looks like after a slate of bowl practices with Coach Matt. That's what I want to see.
With backwards hat Matt.
Backwards hat Matt. And, it seemed like as the year went along, I don't know that Riley Van Poppel had a great start to the season. It felt like there were a few more flashes in late October and early November than maybe what we'd seen prior to that. Obviously, Iowa and Penn State was a forgettable game for a lot of people on that defense, but new play caller. You've had a kind of a different couple of voices with Matt Rule and Phil Simpson working with you at the defensive tackle spot. And I am kind of eager to see if that results in differences against a very good Utah offensive line, which, by the way, has their own little set of opt-outs that, probably is not being discussed enough. But, he's a guy that I think when you start kind of looking at what the defense can be next season, he's a guy that's got to take that step forward that you had hoped would happen this year, but really needs to happen next year, in probably a defensive look that I think fits him a little bit better than what he was having to deal with this year. Yeah. Did that give you enough time? Did I filibuster enough?
Yeah, it did. But actually, when you take away the running backs and TJ Lateef, it's pretty interesting. You can kind of work through the process of trying to name someone, because like if you go to wide receivers, like I could throw at you like a Quinn Clark or something, but you don't know how much, like he's even going to play necessarily in this bowl game. I think he's going to be big in 26. So I'm not going to say him. So you kind of end up working your way to the defense is the point of that. And maybe this is a low hanging fruit answer, but Williams Nwaneri, to me, is also a very interesting guy in the sense that, he's got a new coach coming in, sort of like, Roy Manning's on the scene. And obviously I'm sure, Eckler's been working with those ends too. And he played a lot of snaps this year, Bruntz. Like if we go back to what we thought in the summer, we thought maybe fringe guy, 15 snaps a game type thing. He was more in that 40, 50 snaps category. One of the top reps getters on the team. And so I'm curious, with like some time to rest his body, with sort of the vigor that maybe comes with like new eyes on you, like what he can look like. And also, not to diminish, Utah's a pretty physical football team, but you're right. We haven't probably not talked enough about, and we will this week, that they're missing 2 linemen that opted out, including the Outland Award winner. And I'm just curious if they can cause some disruption. And a guy like Nwaneri is where you want to see him maybe stamp something down going into 26. Like, I'm going to be a havoc maker like this, and have that sort of game that sets the tone that way. So he'd be a guy I'm interested in.
It's interesting, like just on the roster, like you could even say like defensively, it feels like the page has very much been flipped to 2026 in some ways. Like, yes, Phil Snow's calling the defense, but there's been so much change on that side of the ball that, I mean, I think you can make a case that, it's more of a 2026 type game on defense than maybe what it is for the offense, with the exception of the running back spot, which is going to be completely made over. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's just off the cuff. But
no, you're right. Not in the sense, like if you're talking Latif and the running backs, but they're off the table in our discussion. So, but yeah, for all the other spots, that absolutely fits. I think Justin Rhett's going to be an interesting name, perhaps, in this bowl game that gets some more run. He was starting to get reps, game reps more at the end of the year. And so he's probably a guy to watch too. Of course, he was a transfer from Georgia, and I think they've kind of liked what he's done behind the scenes. So he'd be another name to keep an eye on.
Could I sell you on Elijah Pritchett?
Yeah, you could sell.
It's, again, new coach, new different voice.
I think he's excited about him too.
Two different voices, I guess, in Jeep Wade and Lonnie Teasley. Is Teasley working more with the tackles? Is that my understanding or my imagination of things?
I think both. I think for now that's sort of it. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think he's a guy that would probably benefit from a different voice, coaching there. But he also, I think, probably post the Minnesota game, I thought played really well. Like it seemed like something kind of clicked for him, where, you started to see more of the guy that was showing up in mock drafts in very high way at the start of the season. Obviously, it's going to be tough to separate him from everybody else, but it's felt anecdotally like he's blocked a lot better as the season went along.
We've talked about it before. It didn't feel great at times, but right now where it's at, his situation this year and how it kind of transpired maybe worked out perfectly for Nebraska, right? Like it wasn't where ideally he's back for a second go around one more time with Nebraska. It wasn't such a knockout punch season that like he's a NFL draft guy or anything like that. So it's sort of like that perfect happy medium where he's trending up, but he'd be wise to just go with it one more year. And I do sense, like you were saying there, Teasley was South Carolina was like the first school to offer him back when Lonnie was there. And I got the feeling he's really excited about the direction with Jeep Wade and Teasley. So you feel pretty good about where Nebraska sits with him.
Real quick, before we get out of here, we've kind of had the run through of new assistant coaches and coordinators and everything on Sports Nightly. Maybe we'll get to talk to those guys in Vegas. I hope we do. Not hold my breath. Give me a takeaway from any of the coaches that you listened to over the last few days. What stood out to you?
I think the thing that pops the most is as Matt Rule was making these hires, I always thought, who would I think about if I were in his shoes and like the direction I wanted to go? And I'd think about Mike Eckler and like what happened there and how that worked, what made it work. Not that you're going to just replicate that. I'm not saying that, but sort of the traits that make Mike Eckler successful. And it isn't the Red Bull energy. I mean, that's part of it, but it's the teaching, it's the recruiting, the ability to evaluate talent, but emphasize the teaching part. And when you heard Roy Manning talk about like Rob Orich and what made him so good at San Diego State, that was the thing that stuck out to me, was how he talked about how basically he can make complex things simpler to guys. And then you heard the same thing when Lonnie Teasley was talking about Jeep Wade, who I didn't really realize this as much until the last week or so, how connected they are, Jeep Wade and Lonnie Teasley. Like they talk shop for like a decade, like about stuff. So that's pretty interesting. And I think that has to give a little bit of a jolt to Husker fans to know like those two are working in tandem and kind of have that relationship built up over the years, and at least some optimism about how they could go together as a 1-2 punch. But how coaches talked about their peers as being teachers is what stuck out to me.
All right. A few more minutes to get your shopping done. We'll have another Husker247 Daily on Christmas Day. So be on the lookout for that. But we'll catch you tomorrow with that one. Keep it locked on Husker 24/7.